If you remain dissatisfied, you also have the right to refer your complaint to the Parliamentary and Health Service Ombudsman. Remain dissatisfied doesn't even cover it. I think Mum's had enough now, and as Greg reminded me at the weekend, this is her call. You've got a wedding to plan. That's her priority now. And Grandad. Doesn't feel right though. I mean, 10 years ago, it'd be Grandad sorting all of this. He was a steward and he wasn't fazed by officialdom. But Nan was, and Mum is. Well, I think the genes have skipped a generation because it was me who said, we need to say something. Mum only agreed as long as I'd write the letter. What's the point in going to uni if you're not going to use it? It's hard to tell what Grandad thinks now. It's a shadow of his former self. I mean, we've read up on dementia and you know how some people get aggressive. Well, if anything, he's the opposite, which means that we don't have the fights that some people do, you know, to get dressed and things, but he gets upset really easily, which Mum finds hard, and especially when he wants to know where Annie is, Nana. Well, that's why we used to take it in turns to go to visit her at the hospital. Someone had to stay with Grandad. The one time Mum tried to take him, well, they all got upset and the nurse said, you know, best not. I got that she needed to go into hospital, but we all thought it was so that she could get back on her feet. I mean, the doctor in A&E said she needed to have antibiotics through a drip and they wanted to look at her heart. And then she started coughing loads. She's a great advertisement for the amount that she smoked. And then she just got really tired and sort of lost interest. You know, there were several times that we found hot drinks gone cold, medication not taken. And I said to the nurse, if they're important, wait until we're there because she'll take them from one of us. Actually, that's one of the things that made me really cross because I put it in my letter and all those times that happened. And their response was, all medication was signed for as per policy. 4 pages long it is. 4 pages. That's only because they've taken everything I said literally and answered it point by point in a way that implies that what I was saying wasn't true. Oh, our staff always, our policy is, there's no record of. I mean, don't get me wrong, there were several sorries in there, but they didn't feel genuine. Not like the nurse on the last night. I mean, she said she was from the agency, but that didn't matter to me. She was the first one in all the times I've been visiting to actually approach me. I mean, I'd managed to speak to a doctor the day before and he'd said that they'd exhausted all the tests as to why she wasn't responding to treatment. Mum was with me and Greg was with Grandad and we both agreed it wasn't fair to let her keep suffering. So we put a plan in place and I thought things would get better now. But that night I still had to ask for help. Her mouth was all dry and her lips were getting chapped. On the last night, Alison, her name was, she actually introduced herself, a rare event. She came over as the other relatives were leaving and said, how did I think she was compared to yesterday? I said, I think she's slipping away. And she agreed. And she said, did I want to stay? It was a weeknight and I had work the next day, but just something inside said I needed to. So I rang Mum and Greg went back to be with Grandad so that she could come in. She said he's a keeper. Alison said she couldn't be specific, you know how long. But she kept popping in and out and noting any changes. And actually, when Nana died, it wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be. It was peaceful even. And after that, it's just a bit of a blur. And we're all just so grateful that it was over. It wasn't until after the funeral that I started revisiting things. Was it because she wasn't taking the medication that she wasn't getting better? What about the time that we found her hanging out of the bed? What if Alison hadn't been there on the last night? And so on. I guess we'll never know now, and there's nothing I can do to change that, but that's part of the reason why I pushed Mum into complaining, so that other families wouldn't be faced with this situation and those thoughts that haunt you. I work full time and I am not afraid to stand up for what's right. But I just don't know what good it'll do taking it further.